in the heart of Nigeria, where the sun painted the skies gold and the earth held secrets older than memory. A respected businessman named Daniel Nyaga lived with his only daughter, Miriam, who had just turned 16, a bright-eyed girl with dreams that danced between books and stars. And though Daniel's late wife had always wished for Miriam to attend the prestigious St. Alira's boarding academy, Daniel felt a strange unease every time the name crossed his mind, for there were whispers in the markets and murmurs in the cafes about the academy, tales of girls who went there and never returned the same. But blinded by the school's perfect brochures, and pressured by wealthy colleagues whose daughters all studied there, he gave in, sending Miriam with a mixture of pride and dread in his chest. The first day seemed harmless enough. Grand gates of black iron, a campus of sprawling Gothic buildings wrapped in ivy, and headmistress Agatha, a tall, cold woman with silver-streaked hair and piercing eyes that seemed to see into one's soul, greeting parents with rehearsed warmth. Yet Daniel felt his blood run cold when Agatha's gaze lingered on Miriam a second too long, as if she recognized something in the girl that no one else could. But he brushed it aside, hugged his daughter goodbye, and drove away, unaware that he was leaving her in the hands of something darker than he could imagine. The first night Miriam realized things weren't normal, for instead of laughter and chatter, the halls fell silent at dusk, and the girls whispered about strange rules: never speak after sunset, never open the windows after midnight, never wander near the east wing, and above all, never ask about the missing students, for the basement was where those who broke rules were taken, and they never came back. Yet Miriam, brave and curious, whispered questions to her roommate Adora, who trembled as she confessed that sometimes faint singing drifted through the corridors, luring girls toward the east wing, and those who followed were never seen again. That very night, Miriam woke to hear the softest, sweetest humming, like a child singing a lullaby. And though her heart urged her to move, Adora clutched her hand with tear-filled eyes, whispering, "Don't, please, don't go." And for the first time Miriam realized her roommate wasn't just timid but utterly terrified, as if she had seen something before. Meanwhile, Daniel, restless and unable to shake the unease, returned to town near the academy, listening to old men in the market muttering that St. Alira eats its daughters and that the east wing was cursed, while women at the well swore they had seen ghostly lights glowing in the school at night. And though most dismissed it as superstition, one villager told Daniel that every girl taken had been the daughter of wealthy men, and suddenly it struck him that this was not coincidence, but design, for St. Alira seemed to hunger for the children of the rich. Back in the academy, Miriam noticed things others ignored: the way the teachers avoided mirrors, the way Agatha's shadow sometimes moved differently than her body, the way older girls carried strange bruises as if clawed by something unseen. And she began piecing together that the school was more prison than academy. But the true horror struck when Clara, the senior prefect, whispered to Miriam, "If they call your name during evening roll call, don't answer, no matter what." Advice Miriam didn't understand until 2 nights later, when her name was called, her chest tightening as every girl in the hall froze, staring at her in fear. But Adora shook her head violently, and Miriam bit her lip, staying silent, only to watch Agatha's eyes narrow and a smile creep across her face, whispering to an assistant, "She is strong keeper for the offering." Miriam's blood ran cold, but she didn't yet know what the offering meant. Daniel, growing desperate, attempted to visit unannounced, only for Agatha to meet him at the gates, her eyes glowing faintly in the dusk as she told him coldly, Parents are not permitted unscheduled visits, and when he tried to argue, he felt something invisible pressing on his chest until he could barely breathe, forcing him back into his car, his heart pounding. Convinced the headmistress wasn't entirely human, so he hired a local hunter named Bako, who had once lost a niece to Saint Alira, and together they watched the school from the forest at night, where they saw hooded figures leading girls into the east wing, chanting in low guttural tones, and once, just once, Daniel swore he saw a massive shadow with wings spread across the building, blotting out the moonlight. Inside, Miriam grew bolder, sneaking through the library to uncover forbidden books hidden behind locked shelves. Discovering Saint Alira was built on land once ruled by a coven that worshipped a spirit called Elidara, a being that demanded yearly sacrifices of innocence and purity to grant power and wealth. And suddenly, everything made sense. The missing girls, the wealthy parents, the secrecy. Saint Alira was not a school, but a facade for feeding elite. One night, Miriam and Adora were dragged with others into the basement, chains clinking as they descended into darkness. The air thick with rot and ash, where they saw an altar drenched in blood, candles flickering against walls etched with symbols that seemed to crawl, and Agatha standing tall in crimson robes, chanting as the shadowy figure of Elidara slithered from the dark, its form shifting between beast and smoke. And Miriam's heart nearly stopped as she realized they were next. But just as Agatha raised her dagger, a crash shook the hall. Daniel and Bako had broken in, torches blazing, shouting for Miriam, the firelight driving shadows back. But Elidara screamed, a sound like 1,000 children crying, shaking the ground. Chaos erupted. Girls screaming, cult members chanting louder, Daniel fighting like a man possessed, wielding fire against the shadows. Miriam using the forbidden knowledge she had read to shout words of banishment, her voice trembling but fierce. And Adora clutching her hand, lending her courage. The fight surged until Miriam, remembering the rule about not answering her name, realized the creature's power came from recognition, from owning their voices, so she screamed into the chaos, "You do not own me!" breaking the chain of fear. And one by one, the other girls shouted too, their voices rising, overwhelming the chants, weakening Elidara, until Daniel hurled the torch onto the blood-soaked altar, flames roaring high as the beast shrieked and dissolved into smoke, dragging Agatha with it, her eyes wide in disbelief as she burned. When dawn broke, the surviving girls stumbled out of the ruins, their faces pale but alive, and Daniel held Miriam close, tears streaming as he whispered, "I'll never doubt my heart again," and though scars would remain, Saint Alira was no more, its secrets buried in ash. Yet the villagers swore that sometimes, on moonless nights, faint singing could still be heard drifting from the ruins. A chilling reminder that evil never dies, it only waits.